Hey, what's going on? This is Jay Pharoah. You listening to the Hard Knock Life podcast. What up, though?
Well, it's the NOC in full color. You see me? The Hard Knock Life.
Welcome to Hard Knock Life. I know we were supposed to go on hiatus. The year's over. Dominic and I wrapped everything up, but then Warner Brothers went and gave us an early Christmas present, dropped the Superman trailer, and I figured, well, let me get my boy Julian Lytle, who is a movie critic at The Beat, to come in. Big Superman fan. I'm not sure he's a big James Gunn fan, so I feel like he's got some interesting things to say about the Superman trailer. So welcome to Hard Knock Life, Julian.
Thanks for having me on, man.
I appreciate you being here. Actually, we're in the middle. We're going to be recording the first episode of the next season of the DC Multicast podcast, so stay tuned for that. But before we talk about the past in DC, let's talk a little bit about the future. They dropped the trailer, Superman. I got some thoughts. I want to know. I haven't seen you post about it online, so this might be some like fresh out the oven hot takes.
It's too many posts, man. I don't even know if it needs me to talk about it. Like I was like, I'm gonna let everybody eat.
Yeah. Well, now let's get your hot take out the oven. What was your initial thoughts on the Superman trailer?
I thought it was a good teaser. I like that it actually doesn't tell you nothing, and it just shows you stuff. That it's just like, oh yeah, Superman flying, Clark Kent, Pa Kent, Crypto the Superdog, Lex Luthor looking like he hates Superman's guts.
Finally,
Guy Gardner with a bowl cut, Mr. Terrific looking cold as ice. Lois Lane with the perfect casting because Mrs. Maisel was just Lois Lane for 4 or 5 seasons.
Yeah, it was her audition tape.
Yeah, same thing. And Hawk Girl looked like she about to, aka Dora the Explorer, get ready to smack the bejesus out of somebody. And they had a kaiju in it too. It was like, yeah, y'all put a lot of stuff in this teaser that don't tell you nothing. That's what I like, because people think they try to analyze like, ooh, what's gonna happen. It's like that. The story it don't tell you nothing, yo. Like it doesn't. I've watched enough trailers. I watch enough films. It's smart. It don't tell you jack.
Yeah, that's the worst thing I feel like about like the modern era of movie trailers. Is like, I've seen the trailer. Why do I need to go to the movie? Because the trailer gives you everything.
Yeah, we'll probably get something closer to that, like in the summertime, to get the people who not converted. It's just like, I don't know. I think they only make those trailers like that because there's people who actually just need to know what they're going into. They don't want no surprises.
Well, and I tell you what though, I've been burned by Superman trailers in the past, because back in 2013, it's still today one of my favorite trailers of all time is the third trailer for Man of Steel.
Man of Steel have fire trailers.
Right? Like, I was like, oh my God, this might be the best Superman movie ever made. And then, of course, the movie came out and it wasn't. So we're not here to bury the Snyderverse. We're here
relitigate the past.
Well, and to your point about being online, like sometimes you got to weed through all the Snyder bros to get to some of the commentary about this trailer, because they are mad. They are feeling a certain type of way.
People was mad. They just gonna be mad. It's over. Like Henry Cavill had his time. It's time for this.
The Rock did all he could to bring him back, but
it was time for a new, younger Superman, 31-year-old Superman.
What do you think of David Cornsweet? This is the first time we've seen him in action. Like there was the initial photo with him putting the boots on. There've been some teases here and there, but now we get to see him in action a little bit. I'm not a lot. There's still, no dialogue except Crypto take me home. But
I knew he was ready for the role because he was in Twisters this year, and I saw like how large this guy is.
Yeah,
because I've seen him in other stuff, and it just show like how like he put that weight on. But you watch the Twisters, it's like, oh yo, he was preparing. Like everybody looking real small next to old boy.
Yeah.
But seeing him with the hair, with the the little goofy head rubbed in hair, all messy as Clark, and then this little slick back,
like his Gen Z broccoli cut or whatever.
Yeah, and what I thought, I got to give credit to James Gunn here, is starting your teaser off with Superman in the Yamcha pose.
Yeah.
Because like, I don't even know if he's that up on the correlations of Dragon Ball, and how, if you really know Dragon Ball lore, how essentially Toriyama was like, yeah, I'm putting some Superman stuff in this. Like how much it connects to like Superman and the ideas of Superman. And to have like, you will start the teaser off with Superman looking washed, like laid out. And then in a crater, looking just like Yamcha after the Cybermen
But even the
Beat 'em up.
pose, like I feel like it has to be intentional because his
has to
knee is
be
in the same position.
Same thing. Like that'd be my first question if I actually got to talk to him. Like,
Yeah.
Yamcha though? Like,
what is I mean, I feel like James Gunn, I don't think he's
He's
ever
hipper.
referenced anime before in anything.
He's hipper than we I think even
That's
I've
true.
ever gave him credit for. You know, he
Yeah.
had a the new Kendrick song on his playlist of the year. So I'm like, okay, you hipper than I thought. It's not all old rock music from the
It's
80s
not all
and 90s.
AM radio.
Yeah, you know.
Well, I mean, because I know I recall like you weren't a big fan of Guardians.
No.
So like
The third movie was the only one I liked.
Right. So
I didn't wait. I didn't even see the second movie. Let's keep it on this. I didn't like the first movie that much. I was like, I'm not seeing the second movie.
Right. So that's why but James Gunn as a filmmaker overall, do you have issues, or was it just Guardians you weren't a fan?
It was really just Guardians. I've seen his other stuff, and I enjoyed it. You know, some of the he has his trauma history.
Right.
I could feel it like when was that movie Slither or whatever the joint with Nathan Fillion in, and like I was like, oh yeah, I see it in there. And some stuff, is cool. The Guardian stuff was too cute for me. Like they was Care Bear staring on Ray Ronan the Accuser, and it was too quippy. And I think the whole overall Marvel universe is too quippy.
Yeah,
that means there's no stakes, because everything is a joke.
Right.
But then in terms of DC, what kind of turned the corner for me was not really the Suicide Squad, which I enjoyed, but was Peacemaker, because it had the humor, but it had stakes, and it was like real serious stakes for Peacemaker, him coming off of the Suicide Squad and what he did and what he's trying to do. And it ramped up effectively well. And then like Creature Commandos is good. I saw all that already. So I'm like, okay, he plugs the comics, man. What, as much as everybody loves Kevin Feige, I ain't never see him tell nobody to go buy X trade. That's
a good point. At the end of, even with the Flash, as much of a disaster that movie was, what I appreciate about the teasers for that movie was read Flashpoint, like there was actual covers of the comics at the end of the trailer.
You know what I mean? Sold too. Like you would go like, oh, they was #1 on Amazon. Like he made Supergirl, Woman Tomorrow, and also Superman sell out. Like. I'm
and
like,
he
that's
actually consults like the writer, like Tom King's in his writer's room. He's writing the Supergirl movie based on his book. So like, and he's your boy too. So like,
yeah, he's working on Lanterns. Somebody else is
he's working
on
script. Oh, okay, but he's basing it off of his book.
Yeah. He's involved. Like it's all that stuff is publicly stated in.
Right, they're in the mind of like the writer's room essentially for the whole universe. So I mean, the reason I brought up Guardians and James Gunn's like movie history is that like. Some of the controversy is that like, is his, style something that you think fits? Because to your point about Suicide Squad, Creature Commandos, even Peacemaker, that very much in the James Gunn wheelhouse, right? Like kind of Misfits and like also Rand's Guardians is also another example of that. But like Superman is the top dog. He's the original progenitor of superhero comics. Do you think James Gunn's like personality or style is right for not only Superman but building the whole universe?
Guardians of the Galaxy 3 really changed my mind on things because I think it got to a point where the positives and negatives of the MCU as we know it has kind of shown itself after they moved from the quote unquote Infinity Saga onto the multiversal saga in terms of storytelling tone. Like some of the reason I didn't really like Guardians because they didn't feel like the Guardians to me, and Marvel did a basic thing where they changed the characters to fit that perspective because it was a popular movie. Like I was like, oh, okay, like this is what y'all doing. This ain't really for me. I think the nature of the DC universe, because hopefully people listening to this know, like DC Comics reboots. They'll start over for a generation. So there's times in which they'll take characters and they'll be completely reimagined into something else. Has nothing to do with the movies. And then the movies is like, oh, I like this one. So like when you watch the Superman trailer and you see Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner with the bowl cut, making facial expressions that look like Kevin McGuire drew them in the storyboards or something. And he even Kevin McGuire's like, that looked like something I drew. Like that's different. That hits really different. It's not something where it's like, they're changing things to make it more palatable for an audience. It's like, nah, you know what? Superman Lois Lane just went off. Like, we know you seen Superman. We know that you got Smallville. We know you remember that. We know you had Superman Returns and that ain't work well. Some of y'all mad about Henry Cavill. But even in the canon, the way DC works, it's like, yo, there's people was like, nah, I like New 52 Superman. And then some people's like, nah, I like post-crisis Superman. And then some old heads is like, no, I like Superman. I grew with in 1962, and he was pushing planets. And all them things is valid. So if you're going to start over something in a world where we not starting over, it's like, it's only Superman. Like, nah, Superman's in here. He's doing stuff already. We ain't going to get all into the beginnings and Jor-El, and we ain't pulling out Zod already. Yo, Maxwell Lord's already here.
There's already a version of the Justice League. They're basically already, the JLI, right?
Yeah, they're already here doing superhero stuff. Basically, clearly, they're going to not come to like, but it's like a disagreement on methodology of superheroing in this movie. Like, yo, you do X, Y. Metamorphose in the movie, bro.
Right. Looking
That's
good.
Deep cut. Like, looking like the way he was drawn in the 2000s when his little offshoot was in the Outsiders with Arsenal and Indigo and Grace and everything. I was like, you put the lines on his face. I was like,
I know there's a lot of people who are clamoring for Pattinson to be the DCU Batman, and as much as I love the Batman universe, I kind of am interested in what the DCU Batman will be, because the DCU Batman will probably be the most comic accurate Batman, because I think what you're saying is that this is the first movie in a long time that's not ashamed of the source material. Like, and I'm not saying that derisively, because I feel like, Smallville is one of my favorite shows of all time, but even like Al Gough and Miles Miller would say, our philosophy is no tights, no flights. Tom Welling's like, I'm never putting a suit on, right? Like, there was just kind of like, they got the spirit, but they just didn't want to look goofy, even though some of those costumes they ended up with looked goofy.
Like, it was real WB into CW era.
right. But it's like, if you put the real suit on, if you're just gonna put that dumbass jacket. But anyway,
man, just have him be Superboy this way. Like, what are we doing?
But anyway, but even the Snyderverse, there's something Zack Snyder, he wanted to deconstruct. He wanted to, Nolan was like, I want it to be Batman in the real world. There was never anyone who was like, but what if like a giant kaiju just attacked Metropolis? And you know what I mean? And I feel like that's the thing James Gunn brings.
I really think the DCEU, as we'll call it, as its name is, I think, and this is, hindsight 2020, even though there was some good books that came out, I do think that DCEU and the New 52 are tied at the hip thematically and structurally, because I do think the things that they did in terms of changing the characters and reestablishing around certain things in fandoms at the time, like Harley Quinn, I do think Harley Quinn in the New 52 was inspired by cosplayers in the late 2000s, the early 2010s, to give her a look that looked like we've seen cosplayers dressed like that before she changed into that. And then that led directly to how Harley Quinn looks in the DCEU. I do think
which is then fed like
it's a cycle
back into like the comics.
And I think some of the darkness and some of that, specifically for the DCEU and Snyder and the shoots around it, is so connected to that era of comics that didn't pan out well. Like,
it was not my favorite. It's why I stopped reading comics, to be completely honest.
So it's like with Nolan, Batman is the biggest X factor or changing, because the thing was like, I want Batman to feel real doesn't come from movies. It's like, when we were kids, they was writing New York Times articles about watching The Dark Knight Returns at year one, saying like, this is how comics be. It's not boom bap this anymore. And that reality that, Frank Miller put into it, that the other creators kept on expanding upon, it was like, I might not read a bunch of comic books, but this Frank Miller guy, this hit. So then you get the movies, and it's like some people don't like the Nolan movies. So I was like, the Nolan movies feel like certain specific eras of comics. It's like, if you liked like early 90s Batman comics where he's not dealing with the rest of the DC universe,
right?
It feels, some of those books
like
feel
Denny
just
O'Neil.
like
It's got a 70 like Ducard being in the first movie, right?
Denny O'Neil, Dixon, like that specific like that. There's a long legitimate era of Batman being like, oh, when Batman's by himself, or maybe with Robin in the crew, it can get super realistic in terms of how he has to deal with things, and I think that translates into the movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they have a. I know what I have. I like they've said that like they want to do a movie with Batman and Robin. Like, oh, okay, like the biggest problem is that the Batman is really good, and then the Penguin just made it even better.
Exactly.
So it's just like, can you find another person to be a good Batman, and can you find another person that can write a script well enough to not have people like, y'all should have just brought Pattinson and Zoe Kravitz.
Well, but because I think that's the like the gift and the curse potentially of like having multiple universes, right? Because I've come to a place in my fandom where I'm like, I don't really give a shit about continuity anymore. Like there was a period where I was like, well, that doesn't make any sense, that doesn't fit. But now I'm like, let people tell good stories. I think maybe I've been burned a little bit on the MCU where it's like it starts to feel like homework if you don't watch certain shows or you don't watch certain movies.
Like Marvel Comics.
Yeah, just like the Marvel comics have always been. I've always been as you can tell if you look at my background, I've always been a DC guy over a Marvel guy. There's a reason I'm doing a podcast watching DC movies, as shitty as most of them are, than a podcast doing Marvel movies, right? Because at heart, I'm a DC guy.
You can leave DC Comics continuity and still enjoy DC Comics. You can just go read Vertigo Comics. It's like, oh yeah, Doom Patrol sometimes is in a weird place where it's part of but not part of. Sandman is technically part of continuity, but also not part of continuity.
Right. I mean, to your point about Batman, like Batman stories, when Batman's in the Justice League, it's almost like a different character, right? Like, because the Batman stories that Chuck Dixon and Doug Mensch and those guys wrote, like he's just a gritty detective who's got the shit beat out of him because he's like Nightfall fighting 100 different villains every night. And then all of a sudden he's just kind of like in the watchtower, like devising plans to beat Darkseid in jail.
Yeah. Grant Morrison got him find a flying saucer because he's like, yo, Batman can be both things.
That Zerana stuff, like I'm like, okay, I'm starting to lose it a little bit. but I think to your point, like with what James Gunn could potentially do is that like the Batman that lives in his universe can be the polar opposite of the Pattinson Batman. It's not, to your point, he's the one riding flying saucers and not in the rain with Zoe Kravitz and Colin Farrell. You know what I mean? You got to make that distinction, because I don't think the Pattinson Batman makes sense. And I'm the guy who was like, what they should have done was bring Christian Bale back into like Man of Steel, and that instead of having Ben Affleck, but that's a whole other story. Because like the realism of the Batman universe doesn't fit with the kind of like extraordinary universe that the DCU is supposed to be. I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we also is that the Batman is working off of the constant concept that they fall in love with of the Batman of Year One, Long Halloween, and Dark Victory. They literally just want like, yo, they want rookie seasons Batman. They don't want an all-star game.
They don't want Batman on the Wizards.
They're like, nah. And then what Gunn and them, I think, have an opportunity to do is show a Batman that's older but not washed. Essentially, like LeBron James the second time on the Cavs. Like, like he went through his journeys, but he's at the peak of his powers. He got a son. Like, the son gonna be Robin. Bet that means Nightwing is Nightwing. Like,
right, Dick and Tim.
They can be. People can have like they can literally just go make a Nightwing movie, and it's like, he was Robin back in the day. Batman probably did punch Guy Gardner in the face. We just haven't seen it. They can do a flashback of the movie. He punched him dead in the face, like one punch. They can do all that stuff, and it's water under the bridge. And maybe you go with the fact that maybe this Superman isn't as old as everybody else, and he's kind of newer, but he's the most powerful, and that adds an interesting dynamic between the two main characters before they even think about however they're going to bring Wonder Woman back.
Right, that's not even in the cards.
That's a whole other problem. That's a whole other problem.
Because they got Cersei in the cartoon and Creature Commandos. The Paradise Lost show is supposed to be pre-Diana, so like Wonder Woman that's a whole other thing. But
that's another problem because Gal Gadot was
too iconic. As much as people don't like her anymore, she's too iconic as Wonder Woman. Right?
It's like it's her and Linda Carter.
Yeah,
let's be honest. It's her. For a lot of people, it's like, yo, that was Wonder Woman. She's pretty. She was effective. They put her in mad extra DCEU movies for no reason. It was like, put her cameo, she'll do it. Like, bet.
Well, I think that's the other thing too. She'll do it. She does not know how to say no.
Nah, man. Mortgages always do.
Well, that's the Superman trailer talk. Julian is going to be back. You tune in to the DC Multicast podcast that's launching pretty soon. We're going to talk about, as I mentioned, we're doing a podcast. Season 2 starts with Batman Returns. We're going all the way up to Watchmen, covering every single movie in the DC universe. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, Julian, can people find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, I use my name as my handle on social media. Julian Lytle, Lytle is how you spell my last name. I write a lot of reviews on a site called riot-us.com, and I also do reviews on the Comics Beat and appear on random podcasts when they invite me, like this one.
Like this one, absolutely. Stay tuned. After this, we're actually going to rerun my conversation with comedian Jay Pharoah. His Soapstone Presents Comedy Club virtual show is going to be replaying on Meta Horizon headsets on December 26th. So listen to me and Jay talk about when I was his teacher 20 years ago in Virginia and stuff like that. So this is Hard Knock Life. We're done for the year. I promise we'll be back in the new year. And then also look for DC Multicast on the feed. Otherwise, thanks for listening to Hard Knock Life. Well, I am here with the man, the myth, the legend, Jay Pharoah, comedian, impressionist, all-around Renaissance man. And for folks who may not remember, or why would you remember it? You may not know, in another life, I was a high school teacher in Chesapeake, Virginia. And the high school that I taught at, Indian River High School, one of our best alumni is Mr. Jay Pharoah. And you have a special that's coming out. Well, you did a special with Meta, the Soapstone comedy virtual one we're going to talk about. You did another special on YouTube, your second special, named Jared, and you kind of took away like one of my like party tricks where I used to tell people, I know Jay Pharoah's real name. I'm one of the few people, but not everybody does. So welcome to the podcast.
This is payback. This is payback for the lyrical talk.
Yeah, you can call me Keith. You don't gotta call me Mr. Chow. That would be weird.
Okay, cool. All right, cool. Good to see you, Keith, brother.
Is that weird? Is that weird? Like
it feels weird because I just remembered. It's cool though. I could do it. You asked me, I'll do it.
Definitely haven't had a conversation with a former student in a long time, but welcome. I mean, I mean it. Like I remember when you were like a snot nose over at Indian River High School, and to come talk to you now almost 20 years later. And you're like one of the best comedians in the world, clearly the best impressionist in the world.
Hey man, like, I appreciate that, brother. There's been a lot of copying out there. I'll tell you that. But the original cake always tastes the best. When it's multi-produced, there's always a little bit of lesson in it, as I call it, of flavor and distinction, but it's all good. I love it all, man. I see all these TikTok folks pop up and do their thing. I ain't got nothing but good words to say about people, so I don't degrade anybody. I don't speak to the degradation of anybody, man. I'm always.
Well, no, you grinded because we're actually coming up on the 15th. I don't know if you do realize this. We're coming up on the 15th anniversary of the post you put on YouTube where you're doing Denzel and Will talking to each other.
That's crazy.
That was in February 2010. And that's I think your first video that blew up, because I remember seeing that on YouTube and going, wait, isn't that the kid that I taught in high school? So like that's that's when I was like, okay, this Jay Pharoah cat is legit, and he's gonna be, and you booked like SNL like a couple months after that.
Yeah, it was literally when the SNL happened. That's September,
fall, right?
That's September, man. It was that quick. I remember telling my cousin, my cousin Alicia, who I grew up with, I'm super close with. I remember telling her, I don't feel like in July, I told her, I said, I don't feel like I'm gonna be here too much longer. And she was like, what do you mean? I was like, I mean alive, but like not living here.
Just calling the Logic suicide number.
She was like, my cousin has problems. Was it that bad growing up? Like, nah, man. But for real, I felt it in my bones, and then it happened. There was so much at that time, and still, like, I've come back into it, but there was so much speaking and praying on things and it happening like that. You know what I mean? There was you know, I would spend, I used to go to this spot in Chesapeake where it was right it's right behind Quarter Mill, the neighborhood. Dang, why am I telling people that? They're probably gonna go now.
Okay, we'll
I used to
bleep
go.
that out. I won't.
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't have to. It's
I won't
fine.
bleep
Like,
that
I don't
out.
live there no more. You have to catch me. You really have to go there every day if you're gonna try to catch me there. You know, you never know. But I used to go there and I used to just talk to God. I literally would talk to God and I would just ask him to, you know, like whatever's happening, you know, just prepare me for it. I don't know how I'm gonna get on SNL, but I wanna go up. I wanna be up there. I didn't know how to be up there, man. I'm a kid from Chesapeake, Virginia, who went on the road with Charlie Murphy at 19, and I thought that was SNL for me. That was, you know, that opportunity that I got. But it just all worked out when you really just keep doing what you're doing. And I'll tell you this story too. I was in Burlington Coat Factory in 2008. And, you know, I was really getting down on myself. I was like, man, maybe I should just quit. I should just quit doing stand-up. And somebody came through the line and they said, hey, I don't know. He said, I don't know why, but he said, the spirit of God just told me to tell you to not quit. Everything that you want to get is about to happen for you. You just have to stay on the path. And I was like, oh, and then I looked up. I looked down, looked up, that person was gone. I was like, yo, what is happening? But it all worked out, brother. So, you know, hey.
And,
you know,
and here you are later. Was it now? It's been, like you said, almost 15 years since that time on Saturday Night Live. You did 6 seasons. I mean, and you left a mark on Saturday Night Live because, you know, you were an impressionist. The impressionists on Saturday Night Live are always one of the people remember. You played the president. Like, that's another thing that, like, everybody remembers. Will Ferrell, everyone remembers. Dana Carvey. You did Obama. Absolutely. So you were the guy who did the president when you were on the show. You were the black guy on Saturday Night Live. There's not many of y'all either. So, like, you know, you left a mark when you're on Saturday Night Live. And I want to get back to the Indian River piece. One of your original characters was our principal, Mr. Fry. And you've had a chance to, like, talk to him over the years, ever since you turned him into a Saturday Night Live character. What's that been like?
Yeah, you know, well, even before I did this sketch, I asked him if it was cool with him for me to, you know, portray him nationally. And I just remember him saying, well, I didn't even know that I was that comical, but however, if you want to portray me, my son, you know, whatever you want to do, my baby, because you my baby, you can do whatever you want to do, but I didn't even know I was that comical, but you come on, let's go ahead and do that. Go ahead and do that. And then it became a thing. And I got a chance to do that on that show 6 times. I remember 6 times I did Principal Fry, and every time it got crazier and crazier, and to the point where it was like I was popping from the bottom of the screen. I pop into the camera, but that speaks to my type of humor, because, you know, when I used to play Mortal Kombat, one of the funniest things to me was uppercut. I used to uppercut people just so that white face would come out, like, and pop back out. Like, it was so funny to me, you know. So getting a chance to kind of take that world, take that sense of humor, and marry it with Principal Fry's zany announcements. Like, it was the perfect
attention teachers and students. That was
attention teachers and students. Which, if you don't remember, and you probably do because you were there. It was 9/11, and Principal Fry got on the loudspeaker.
That was my first week teaching at Indian River. Was 9/11.
That was your first week?
My first week.
Wow. Yeah, me. Hey, it was my first week too. You know, that was the freshman.
That's right. You were a freshman. My first year, you were a freshman. So
I was a freshman, and I was in Miss Garrett's class. Miss Garrett, she's so fine. It was Miss Garrett, so fine. I mean, she's still fine to this day. Very beautiful lady. I know she's married, but still, she's a very beautiful lady. Whatever, you know, she's beautiful.
Right. I get it.
But Principal Fry got on the loudspeaker. He was like, attention teachers and students, I've just got word that the World Trade Centers have just been bombed. Now, there's a lot of students who have family members in the New York City area. What we're going to do is we're going to have a moment of silence. And while he's having this moment of silence, you can just hear him grieving and breathing the whole time. Oh, my Lord Jesus.
I shouldn't laugh, but that's like you just brought back a memory that's like still there.
I'm just, it wasn't supposed to be funny, but I'm sitting there, I'm conflicted because I'm hearing comedy, but the situation is so heavy. I'm just,
that needs to be that. If you ever do a Principal Fry movie, I don't know if that's in the works, but that's got to be in there.
Hey, man,
tell me if this is something that I might have made up, or if this actually didn't you get on the announcements one time impersonating Mr. Fry, or did I imagine that?
Did I get on when we did senior day? I think I got up there senior day and did it, but that might have been when you left though. Yeah. I don't know. They might have had me. Yes, you know what? I did do it a couple of times. They had
like you did.
They had me go up and they were like, it's so good. They were like, we're gonna let you do the announcements. And I do it as Principal Fry. And people be laughing. Yeah, I did that a couple of times. Wow, I forgot all about it.
I wasn't sure, like, am I imagining that? Is that a dream that I had, or did that actually happen? I feel like I told people you did that though. So I'm spreading that rumor either way. But as an impressionist, I mean, that was something that you've done since you were a little kid. I've read things where you said, like, you were doing Gilbert Gottfried from Aladdin, and
6 years old.
Coming to America, you were doing Eddie Murphy already. So like
6 years old.
When did you how did that? Because I've always been fascinated by impressionists. Like, how do you realize or decide I'm going to like talk like other people? Like, how does that even happen?
Well, I like girls at an early age, and so when I was 6 years old, my ex-girlfriend now, of course she's not with me anymore. She told me I would watch Disney, and I was always infatuated with Robin Williams and the way that he was. As a matter of fact, sometimes the energy on stage that I have, people say comparatively, it's either to a Eddie Murphy or like a Robin Williams type thing, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Or both of them together, which is a great which is a great fusion. Shout out to Dragon Ball. You know what I'm saying? Do the fusion dance, do that, you know what I mean? Get together. But I was so infatuated with Robin Williams. I was watching everything he did. And I saw Aladdin, and it was Iago the parrot. That was like, and he was doing all types of crazy stuff. But when I heard that parrot, I was like, yo, I might be able to do this. And I did it, and it was pretty good. And my shorty told me to listen, don't stop doing it. And here we are years later, 31 years later. I've been doing impressions for 31 years. But as far as like being able to identify who you can do, there's never, like, I never feel like there's somebody that I can't get. You know what I mean? I always be at least 75% there or something. But, you just, first of all, I got to be a fan of the person. Mm-hmm. Like, if I'm a fan, like, it's a wrap. You know what I mean? Like, because I paid attention to your tics and everything. So I pay attention, I watch your shows, or, I'm just in total admiration of you. The only person I'm probably not in admiration of that I do an impression of is probably Donald Trump. And that's just because it is what it is. But to some degree, Trump is hilarious. And I got to say that he's just a funny character, so you can't not do him.
I mean, he's literally a clown. He's literally a clown.
There you go. Like you literally, you have to do him.
Makeup and everything. Like, he's straight up the Joker. So
he's absolutely the Joker. It's amazing. They're eating your cats. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the pets. They're turning your pets into hush puppies. I like the hands. I like the sensei hands he got. Them be the best. When he be going like this, he starts dancing like this. Like
the jack off dance.
He's jacking off. He's jacking off the air. It's just great.
Now it's like trending on TikTok, which is wild. Everybody's doing this shit now, so I don't get it.
They not like us and put it behind that and just have Trump go.
Where's the Kendrick? You did Kendrick for a while, is that still in the repertoire?
Oh, I still got Kendrick. Freaky ass nigga here, 69 God. Run for your life. You think I'm gonna let you rip disrespect pot, nigga? I got all, it's just one of those.
It just comes out. It's like impression Tourette's you get sometimes, right?
Yeah, him, like Papoose. It's Papoose with the great goose and the barrier. I drink beverages for all of my carriers. Like, I have them. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, you've been doing it since you were a kid, and then like,
Yeah.
were the hip hop artists the first ones you started impersonating after you like grew out of Disney, or was it like the comedians? Like, how
Yeah,
did you like? What was some of the earlier voices outside of like the Disney stuff that you started realizing like I could do this?
I think it was Jay-Z and Biggie. Jay-Z, Biggie, Ludacris, T.I., 50 Cent. That was 50 was when I was a teenager. But
Yeah.
I'll say like Jay-Z came. I always had like a lighter register where I can go to. I mean, I could go deep too, but like most of the time I registered, it stays like up here, whatever. So it was Jay-Z, it was Biggie. I heard Big L, Cassidy. Oh, that Cassidy was a big yo, if pipe your habit, I'll holler. I'll price and bag it. Get powder every hour like diaper rashes. Like
well,
I used to. Yeah,
I'm sound like an old head for a second because we started this. You're talking about how we used to talk about like Common and most back in like the early '90s, the mid '90s hip hop, and I feel like a lot of hip hop artists nowadays kind of all sound the same. So is it hard to like
absolutely
mimic like because like everyone you're mimicking has a voice, a very distinct voice, but now all the kind of like mumble rap, mumblecore stuff. Is it hard to like identify a voice nowadays?
The bulk of them, I don't even impersonate the bulk of them like your Trippy Reds. I do Kodak, bro. Like I do Kodak. Kodak. I do the baby. Like I'll do the artists that kind of stuck out from the last 6 years, but the bulk of them, like Trippy Red, all Travis Scott, all them, I don't impersonate them, because I'm not really a fan. Not that they're not good. It's just not something I listen to. You know what I'm saying? Like, and even now, I find myself having to force my hand with listening to music because most of the time I just don't listen to it. Like I'll be in the car listening to podcasts or information or whatever because I'm just trying to stay up on what's going on so I don't die walking out in the street. You know what I'm saying?
You need to be informed.
Yeah, I don't care who's licking your gooch. That doesn't matter to me. I don't, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the lyricism isn't on point anymore, is what you're saying.
Yeah, you said what now?
The lyricism is not as on point anymore.
Well, my lyricism is on point.
They're yours, but
yeah, me listening. Yeah, I don't even. I'm just like, man, but I'll do like I could do Meg the Stallions and all of that. The niggas, like the people that are really popping, but don't.
Or they gotta have a distinct voice for you to want to take it on. Is there someone right now that you're like working on that you haven't quite? You don't gotta demonstrate, of course, but is there someone you haven't quite hit yet that you're still working on right now?
Joe Budden. It's the Joe Budden podcast. I'm getting it.
Yeah. That was pretty good.
I'm getting it, but I'm like, when I get it, when I train my vocals to like stay down here, I'll be complete Joe. And the only person I have seen even attempt it, and shout out to him because he kind of took the artistry, put it together, and made it cinematic, was Affion Crockett. I don't know if you saw a hip hop story, but
nah.
Yeah. He did Joe in there, but I was like, all right, cool. And let me do Joe. I've been trying to get, that's one I have been trying to get for years because I've been trying to find the register.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I think finally I'm starting to pin it down.
And I think it helps that he has a podcast that you can hear constantly. So I would be remiss to not mention, you're doing you earlier this month you released the Soapstone Comedy Presents, which is you doing stand-up in the virtually. Metaverse. What's that like? That's got to be weird that you're doing do you got the gear on too, or are you also wearing the goggles?
Or you put the headphone, you put the headset on, and you got the hand joints that you in there, and they give you an avatar, and I'm not even gonna lie, my avatar is way sexier than I am in person. It's fine, but hey, look, sex sells. I see what they're trying to do.
Yeah, man.
But you go in there and it's kind of weird at first, but for the most part, once you get that first crack, once you get that first joke and you kind of hear it, you kind of ease up. It's just like, it's kind of like doing stand-up for the first time, but just like it's just a different apparatus, and people aren't. You're hearing laughs, but you're seeing people's avatars like throw up stars and hearts and things. So it's like doing stand up for The Sims. That's how it is, you know. But it was so innovative and it's so different. I was like, yo, I gotta make sure that I do that. And I mean, the metaverse pays a lot of money. I'm not even.
Hey,
I'm not even.
It's
gonna
all about
lie.
that bag, man. You got to get the bag.
Yes, but it was something different. And look what I got now. I dropped 2 specials in a year. So on different platforms.
Yeah.
And now I'm almost ready to shoot another one. Like it just keeps the train going, man. And if I can gain fans from anywhere and the people love me ubiquitously, no matter what it is, man, and I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to do. You know what I'm saying?
And
so,
you are not just doing it, but you're killing it. You're crushing it.
You,
and I couldn't be prouder. I was never your direct teacher, but I still have love for everyone. Yeah, of course. I think you were in Mrs. Swift's class, I think, with
yes, sir.
When we had that conversation. So
yep.
And again, to see you blow up right now is it fills me with pride. So I want to, before we go, I want to end on this. This is the Nerds of Color, and we're all nerds. In your Jared special, you talked, you had a little story about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle action figures. And I just wonder, is there anything you're collecting right now? Is there something in, like, do you collect toys? Do you collect physical media? What you got in your collection? Oh, Dragon Ball, nice.
That's me as a Dragon Ball character right there. That's a random anime chick, but whatever. That's Goku.
So you got a collection. I got a
whole collection of That's how. Listen, look. I can say this. Look, the weight of my heart is through Dragon Ball, and if you do that, Lord have mercy. I will take care of you the rest of your life, and that's exactly why I got all of these in here. Yeah, she said, "Hey, I know how to get in there." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Shoot, you the one, baby. You the one." So real talk.
You need your anime girl. So that Megan Thee Stallion album must have, like, where she's all about the anime.
You know what? I'm not gonna front, man. Me and Megan would be the perfect match. And
I'm just saying that she just seems to be like, you mentioned the anime and she's like all up in that. So
I dress up as the characters, like, bro, like, I love it. She does too. Doja Cat, I like Doja Cat back in the day, but she don't do us. So it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Look, they got the Trump hands.
So you can't help it. You gotta start jacking people off. But you know what, Jay? Again, thank you so much for coming on. I've been wanting to have you ever since you blew up. Ever since I started doing this Nerds of Color website, I've been wanting to have a chance to talk to you. So I'm glad that we were able to make it happen. Love to have you come back, talk about Dragon Ball, talk about your collection.
Let's do it.
Always repping VA. 757. So I appreciate you.
2 up, 2 down, baby. Hey.
I got my VA shirt on right here.
Hey. Shout out to Pharrell. I say that. Shout out to Pharrell too.
I mean, the 757 got a lot of superstars, and you're one of them.
We do.
You're one of them.
Thank you, man. Thank you, brother.
Right. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
Watch it on your screen, hit play, so check this. This is the hard knock life, but not the chicken kind, more like the people.